Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so I've talked about all these series. I think I've mentioned every series about the Lakers, Milwaukee, Timberwolves, Minnesota series. Can't even get it right. Talked about so many different teams over the last 2 hours, trying to get through all of my predictions, most of which I probably think are just bad. But we'll figure out in the end who is right and who's wrong out here in these Twitter and YouTube streets. But you know, I haven't made a prediction on our series, and I just think I'm gonna dive in and actually do homework on ours, just like I always do. Break down the last 5 games of the Minnesota Timberwolves and see their highlights and all that stuff. I'm gonna do all the normal stuff going into this series that I would do in a particular basketball game. And then what I expect to do is every game going forward after that, just react freely without looking at stats to every series game after game 1. So that's how I think I'll approach it. For those who follow me, we're going to treat game 1 like a regular season game, and we're going to talk about the last 5 games, and then from there we'll just wing it the rest of the way for the series and kind of reflect as the series progresses on previous games within the series without going through all the numbers. So I think that's how I want to do it. There's so much more to understand about the Minnesota Timberwolves in a situation where you're looking at them for 4 to 7 games than what 5 previous games can really tell you. But I think the idea for me when doing it that way is to just look into the recent tendencies of players, which I think can help you understand what you could potentially expect from a production standpoint and from an execution standpoint. But given the fact that these teams have been waiting a whole week to play, a lot of that data may not be any good anyway. So I'm not really sure if that's the best way to approach it. But I think that's probably how I will. But the truth is, you want to know what this team has been doing all season long to get a better feel for the Minnesota Timberwolves than what the last 5 games obviously are going to tell you. So it's not a whole lot of time to do homework for myself. This week has flown past me, and I have not even glanced at the Minnesota Timberwolves data myself. So I'm just going to do the best I can. But yeah, that's really what it is. I'm going to do that prediction video in a different way than I did all the other series because this is my team we're talking about. And I'm not going to do it here. So this is just a regular Laker video, but I did want to kind of give people understanding what my idea is for how I want to approach this series on my channel. But I can tell you what I do want to see. I do want to see the Los Angeles Lakers take care of business early and get their early games at home. Relinquishing home court advantage in this series is unacceptable. Although it's more than possible because it's a very good team, I don't want to sit up here and say it's just egregious that we lose to the Minnesota Timberwolves at home in any given game. But what I will say is that I put a lot of stock in us taking care of business early, knowing the urgency of not having to deal with this team, with them having home court advantage and us not being a great road team. In fact, we were one of the poor road teams of the playoffs, having a 17-19 record on the road. We are number 3 in the Western Conference because we were excellent at home. But if we were even half as good on the road, we could have potentially been a 60-win team. So it's like, that's the truth about the Lakers. And a lot of that is context. When you look at some of them road trips that we had, a lot of them we were dealing with injuries. Some of those games we expected to lose on, based on that. We went in some of those games just looking to basically punt the games. So that's the problem with a lot of our road trips. They're just injury filled. And so I think there may be a little bit of an asterisk on that road record, but there were plenty of games where we didn't have that as an excuse that we lost in other people's building. And so we need to be honest about that too. So yeah, we got to take care of business at home. We've been a good home team in the regular season. You need to continue to be a very good home team in the postseason. Because if you start to drop off in that way, it could be really bad. It could be really bad for our Lakers, man. I've listened to most people break down this series. Well, a lot of people, not most, but I've listened to a lot of people break down this series. Most people are confident we're going to win the series the long way, not really in the short form. I've only heard maybe 1 or 2 people say Lakers in 4 or 5. Everybody else says Lakers 6, Lakers 7, but the consistency is Lakers. So that's just what I've been hearing. Anthony Edwards is going to be a problem out there. Obviously, one of the top players in the league, scoring monster, highly motivated, highly athletic, obviously, dangerous with the ball in his hands as anyone. And we're going to have a lot of trouble with him early on. That goes without saying. But McDaniels, I think, could potentially be a problem as well. So we're going to have to be honest about that. He's a better offensive player this year than he's been in the past. And I do think that he could be somewhat of a problem for us this year in the playoffs, especially if he's hitting shots and playing good defense. I think people are writing him off as a guy who probably just can't guard Luka Doncic, which I think is fair because I don't think there's really anybody that can, to be honest with you. But if anybody can do some damage to him in this series, it's probably him. So that would be something to pay attention to. I'm not really sure how they're going to scheme this situation, but I do know they need to hurry up and figure it out as it pertains to getting early success against the Lakers, because if we do take care of those first 2 games at home, it puts them in a real bad spot behind the 8 ball, for which I don't think they can dig themselves out of against us. I don't think so. So that's one of those situations where I've heard some people mention Finch in a positive light as it pertains to him making adjustments and stuff like that. But I think his initial defense against Luka Doncic is really going to have to be successful. That's what I say. He's going to really have to be successful, because if Luka starts seeing that he can score on your guys, for which on paper it looks like we can do, then it's going to be hard turning off his confidence. That's somebody that you do not want getting confident that he can do whatever he wants against you. He's already seen that last year in the Western Conference Finals. If he sees that again with this Laker team, I think the series goes the same way. He's going to win it for our team. And so, that's just what I see there. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are in a world of trouble. A world of trouble trying to guard him, LeBron James, and Austin Reeves. And then with our corner shooters being so very efficient on paper, you talk about guys like Rui Hachimura and Dodo. And hopefully Gabe Vincent has it going in the postseason. If those guys are all hitting shots, this series could end quicker than people think. This series could really end quicker than people think. So that's why I'm of the mindset that both teams need to see the urgency in trying to win both of the first 2 games. Obviously, us holding home court advantage. But for them, they need it because we're not that great of a road team. And like I said, if Luka starts getting that confidence early, if he starts cooking early, it could be night in 4. It could be night in 4, y'all. And so now we're going to see. Luka looked great to end the season, in my opinion. He looked absolutely amazing. After that Dallas game, he really hasn't missed a beat at all. And so it's one of those situations where my confidence in him has always been extremely high. But right now, I just think he's getting in a groove. He's probably in a better spiritual space, so to speak, given the fact that a lot of that Dallas stuff is behind him after that game took place. He got the cry out. He beat him 45 points, barely missed a shot. Like, that was really good for his overall demeanor. And I think now we turn the page and start looking at this postseason. And I think he looks at this Laker team, and he probably feels like he can go all the way. Meanwhile, LeBron James, the conversation for me is about the growing. How are we doing with the growing? Because he's going to really need to be able to withstand some punishment, because the Timberwolves have bigs that are going to dish it out. Julius Randle is a nightmare. I never feel good about LeBron going up against Julius. It's been that way since Julius was a Laker. I was concerned about LeBron going up against Julius, because if there's anybody that's strong and powerful enough to give Bron trouble, is Julius Randle. And that is what it's been for a very long time. So I'm never all that great. I never feel all that great about this matchup. It's not that I don't think LeBron could do a lot of damage. It's just that I think Julius could potentially dish out a lot of damage. And if LeBron James is not 100% healthy, that could be a real problem. And you think about guys like Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, This is going to be a series where LeBron James is going to have to be ready for contact. I think McDaniels could potentially be put on Bron, even though he could push McDaniels around for certain. I still think they're going to throw a multitude of defenders at LeBron. And it's not about whether or not he's going to win those matchups. It's about the wear down over the course of the series, which is why I want this series to end early for our sake. I really want this series to end early because that wear down factor is a real thing. They're a bit younger than us, and they can audible into some lineups if they choose to that could really be deadly in the open court. If they want to turn to Shannon, you know what I mean? Suddenly this is a different series. Now, I don't anticipate them doing so. They haven't trusted Shannon all year long. But that is a player that is already proven to be a Laker killer already. So, that's one of those things where it's like, I don't think they're going to do it. But if they choose to, we need to be ready for another dynamic wing that's looking to run hard. I mean hard. Him and Julius Randle alone. You put them on the floor at the same time, and you're talking about fast break points. You're talking about getting to the line and finishing. And so that's what I'm here to tell people. I just really believe that they're leaving a lot of meat on the bone with Terrence Shannon, not utilizing him this season. Because he's a big body, athletic dude, and that is exactly where we struggle. I'm not going to be caught off guard if they decide to deploy the Shannon. That's something we need to be ready for. And, I just think that that's where it really becomes an issue. You're talking about McDaniels. They could put lineups on the floor with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, McDaniels, Shannon, Anthony Edwards. Now you got speed demons coming at you. Everybody's preparing for the bigs and them not being versatile, but that's not actually what they have. They just choose not to utilize their versatility. But they can go to a small ball lineup that can outspeed you if they choose. And that's something I will not allow us to forget. They're not beholden to having to use Mike Conley and having to use Rudy Gobert. They can opt out of that crap and just shift into a center lineup with Julius Randle, DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Ant-Man. They can use Naz Reid, Terrence Shannon. All of a sudden, you got all types of stuff coming at you. Like, what the hell? How did they opt into that? How did they maneuver into that? And when I listen to people talk about the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm not hearing them mention the versatility of the roster itself. They talk about the dynamic of the Minnesota Timberwolves having a hard time guarding our trio. But if they opt into that speed demon lineup, which they probably don't even try, how are we going to stop that lineup? With Julius Randle, Terrence Shannon, and Anthony Edwards spearheading a fast-paced, fast-break situation. And McDaniels and Nickeil Alexander-Walker in that lineup potentially being a problem on the defensive end as well. So that's why I say I see versatility with that Wolves lineup that is not being explored nor being broken down. And I don't think their coach is going to do anything like that. But if he does, I don't know how the hell we stop it. And so that's what it is for me. I have a healthy fear for this Minnesota Timberwolves team because I think that there's so much versatility to the roster itself that's just not being tapped into. That's the God's honest truth. I see versatility all up and down that roster. They just don't utilize it. He uses the roster a certain way, and that certain way limits them significantly. But that, you give that roster to a different coach that has some vision and creativity, and you can turn Minnesota into a different type of basketball team right away. Right away. And I never let that leave my mind. Josh Minott, I know exactly what Josh Minott can do. I know. You put him on the floor with Julius Randle and Anthony Edwards and Terrence Shannon. Man, that young team's going to fly. They're going to fly, y'all. And so I'm going to be the voice telling you, that's there. That's there, JJ. Have something in mind for the ability for their team to morph into something that is fast and potent. Even though their coach probably ain't going to do it, we need to be aware that they have that ability and have something for it. So that's what I'm here to tell y'all, man. Explore all the different ways of defending a team, not just the ways that people think the team is going to be used, because it's the playoffs and you can do a lot of different things with some of these rosters, man. So that's what I want to say to y'all, man. Stay on top of our game as it pertains to the possibilities here, and I think the Lakers will be fine. So we'll talk more about this. Of course, I want to break this team down, but they have the ability to be different in ways that you haven't seen, I think, with this Minnesota team. And I don't think a lot of teams have that ability. Some of these teams, including us, to be honest with you, are what you see is what you get. Minnesota, that's not the case. Video 44. I thank you all for watching. Bye.